I was a kid, and I was going from an elementary school to a junior high, and I was the smallest kid the class that was going into the junior high, and I was like, and I heard it was kind of rough, and I was one of the few. I was like the only one of the few only Asian kids around, so I knew I was,
This was back in Maryland?
yeah, back in Maryland. So I was like, I need to figure something out. So the summer before, I went to France to visit my cousins, and I found out they're all black belts, and they started telling me about martial arts. And when you're a kid, you hear all this stuff about things. You walk in, oh, you got to break boards, you got to do all this stuff before. I was like, I don't know how to. It's kind of intimidating.
How old were you?
11.
Oh, 11. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, what am I going to do? So that's kind of what happened. My cousin said, no, no, you gotta learn to crawl before you can run and walk and all this stuff. I was like, oh, I see. So he goes, that's way down the line. You got to learn how to walk and punch and kick. Yeah. I was like, oh,
So did you start training with your cousin in France, or was it just here in Maryland?
no, they just talked to me about it. We visited, and
Oh,
then I went back, and then it started, and then I started looking into it more. And now around that time, Kung Fu the TV series was out, and
David Carradine.
yeah,
Yep.
and Bruce Lee's movies were out. Yeah,
David
yeah,
Carradine. Yep. Yep.
yeah. So
John, by the way, is a film historian. Uh, he basically is an encyclopedia, so you can ask him about not just martial arts, but a lot of other things too. We have a lot of history. Full disclosure, by the way, John is a longtime friend of mine for 25 years, something like that.
25 years. I thought it was, yeah, more than that.
Maybe more than that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only
Let's not
21,
say
so it's weird.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I knew you when you were an embryo. How
Yes,
we,
yes, yes. I was a negative person
That's right.
when you
Yeah.
met me.
And we were talking about how you're going to be once you come out into the world.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But so let me know about your influences in the martial arts. So okay, so I assume your cousin got you started into it, but what were your big influences in the martial arts? Or who?
As a martial artist, Bruce Lee, definitely. He was, watching him, kind of, you just watched how he overcame a lot of things within himself, and reading all the things about him, you're just like, wow, this guy is essentially a self-made man. And the more I learned about him, the more I read about him, the more I felt empowered, because he was reading books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, and things like that. And I was,
Bruce was a philosopher.
yeah,
He actually graduated. That's what his degree was in Washington, I think.
yeah,
Right?
University of Washington. I don't know if he graduated. I don't think he did. I don't
Oh,
think he did,
okay.
but yeah, it just he was. I mean, he wrote theses on kung fu and how it was the philosophical and spiritual aspects of it,
Right.
to his teachers who
Right.
were teaching Western philosophy. So it was
Right,
pretty cool.
right. So John, just to give you guys a little background, John actually wrote a few things for about Bruce, or a big article, or what was that like?
On the 25th anniversary of his death and release of the movie Enter the Dragon, there was this company up north in Fremont called TC Media. They published Kung Fu Tai Chi magazine, and there was a convention down here of all the original instructors for Bruce. And I went, and I told my editor. She went, and we were talking about it, and I rattled off on my head about all these people and what they've done. And she kind of looked at me and goes, do you want to do a special issue on this? I said, yeah, I'd love to. So they commissioned me to do the 25th anniversary of his passing, and Enter the Dragon. So I got to talk to a bunch of people, which was awesome.
That's really cool. That's
Yeah.
a lot of legends that you've probably met along
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah, like Dan Inosanto, Taki Kimura. Unfortunately, Taki passed away, and
Yeah.
a bunch of other people.
What about Wu Ping? What's your I know Wu Ping is a big part of your life.
Oh yeah, huge.
Give a quick introduction of who Wu Ping is.
For those who don't know Yuen Woo-ping, he was the fight director for The Matrix. and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He's also an amazing filmmaker and a fight director in Hong Kong.
I think he started in the Shaw Brother martial arts era. Did he?
Him and his brother.
Him and his brother, and then he moved into the Golden Harvest era, right?
Well, actually, he kind of jumped around.
He did. He found Jackie Chan.
Yeah. He
made him famous.
He made him famous.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, Lo Wei essentially made a bunch of movies, but they didn't do well. They died because Lo Wei tried to make him like Bruce Lee, and Jackie wasn't that guy, you know. So what happened was, when I was talking to Wu Ping about this, he took a while to become a director because he knew he needed to learn more about filmmaking and being a director as opposed to being a fight director. So once he felt he had enough the knowledge, you know, he was approached by Seasonal Film to do Snake and Eagle Shadow, which was the breakout film for Jackie, and it kind of ushered in the kung fu comedy. You know, there were kung fu comedies before that, but it wasn't as successful as what they were doing with Snake and Eagle Shadow, and they followed up immediately with Drunken Master. If you guys haven't seen it, it's great movies.
Also good. Even Drunken Master 2 was amazing too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So good. There are a lot of times where John and I would be in his apartment and rewinding and slow motion for the whole video. Just like, not just to see it, but actually understand, like, oh, he's shifting his weight this way so he can prep for the butterfly twist. And oh, that's amazing. We could do that. We could do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where we actually a lot of like slow motion just watching. General question.
Okay.
I think a lot of our viewers are non-martial artists, and a lot of questions I get are, what are the differences of the martial arts?
Well, the differences of the martial arts is depending on the situation and how the system started. If you really look at it, especially the ones in Asia, yeah, you got to think about what the terrain was, what the situation, the climate was at the time, and how the solution to dealing with the situation came up with at that time. So there's differences in northern and southern styles. Northern styles, the terrain is much rockier and hillier, I guess. And in the south, it's more flat. So the styles, there's a visual styles and for that, and their approach is physically different. It's just like a language, if you really want to think about it. Everybody understands a language, but they have their own way of saying it or interpreting it. So that's the best way you could kind of look at a martial art. Because the thing is once you learn a style, you're in it for long enough, you're not your instructor, depending on who they are, will kind of let you go and say, hey, interpret yourself with what you learned from the system. Because if you're not, you're still a slave to the system. So
yeah, and I remember one time you told me martial arts is not just kicking and punching; it's a lifestyle.
Yeah,
it's a self-discipline and all of this mental stuff, and and that incorporates in a lot in your life. So I actually see martial arts as a lifestyle and not just hurting people.
I completely agree. If you don't get your way, you just hurt them.
That's a good idea.
No,
Don't do that. Don't do that.
No, but the philosophy of overcoming obstacles, breaking it down into smaller goals, learning how to talk to yourself, your inner dialogue is really important, especially in martial arts. If you're facing somebody and you're in your mind going, oh God, he's gonna kick my butt. Yeah, guess what? He's gonna kick your butt because you said so. So it's what you think is what you become. So I mean,
yeah, the martial arts is a lot of self-help kind of personal development related stuff.
Yes.
And I remember what you said was this punching and kicking that we do in the martial art is a personification of all of that. It comes out as kicking and punching, as training and push-ups and discipline and all that stuff. So,
Yeah. It's and the whole thing. If you really look at it, you're essentially punching and kicking yourself.
yes.
If
Oh
you
yeah,
really
absolutely.
look at it, because you're just like, the best way is just getting out of your own way. Sometimes you're your own worst enemy. And that's very it's very true, especially in martial arts. And you see it in the movies all the time. The guy starts off as not knowing, then he learns, he understands, but his ego's still in the way. He loses to a a mid-level boss, and then he finally understands the lesson, and at the end he finally conquers the boss. So
What's the difference between kung fu or karate or taekwondo or
um it's like I said before, it's just it's a I feel, depending on where you're learning it from, is a representation of where it came from, and the purpose of why the style was created. You got to think about, why is this created, and and also your instructor is very important, because the instructor might have a different take on it. So it's really important that if you're going to choose an instructor, you got to know this instructor, because you pick up the good attributes as well as some of the not so good. So he becomes your mentor essentially, whether you know understand that or not.
this is what I like about John. It's about a life, and it's not about the punching or the kicking.
Oh no,
It's a
no,
lifestyle.
that's like 15% of it,
Yeah,
really, if you really
yeah.
think about it.
So another question I usually get is, what are all the yelling about? What's that?
The key eyes.
Yes.
Well, I mean, rudimentary is to one's to startle your opponent. That's the physical, simple aspect. Two is to get yourself in a mental headspace, like a mental state change of what's about to happen. You got to recall your training, your mindset, and how you're gonna approach this obstacle. And those are the main ones if you really think about it. And it's also to just to get your your you got it's to call attention to what's going on, not just to you, that person, and maybe the people around. So maybe if you do that, you might not have to fight.
So do you know how the martial arts started?
Well, okay, the martial arts was always around, because everybody has to defend themselves somehow, some way. So it started refining and became more of an art. When I say art, I'm talking about mental, spiritual things. When this man from India named Bodhidharma walked from India to China um, to introduce Buddhism to China. So that's when things started getting refined. But there was martial arts before then, but it's very rudimentary, raw. It's very like very. I'm sure it was not as spiritual as when Bodhidharma came there, and
He's the one that brought in the spirituality of the martial art. He's the art side of the martial.
I think he galvanized it definitely and introduced it. And then what happened was when invading tribes and countries would come into China,
Mm.
these martial arts generals and warriors would hide at the temples. So what they had to do is they shaved their head, they pretend they're monks so they wouldn't get captured. And what happened was they ended up they said, well, you're here for a while, might as well, you have to practice what we practice. So here you are, they're learning the warrior aspect and the spiritual aspect. And that's how it all kind of married itself. It might seem very odd, very like, water and oil, or it just doesn't
Doesn't mix.
mesh, doesn't make sense. When you look at it from the outside, you go, it doesn't make sense. But until you do it, you understand. Because the whole thing is you train so you don't have to fight. because there's so many ways of avoiding it, because you know what'll happen once you do take action. So and that is yeah, that's the luxury of being a martial artist, of knowing that you don't have to fight. So
That's actually one of the things I would teach my class, my martial arts class, is I would tell the students, or I ask the students, how do you win in a fight? Oh, you kick them, you punch them in the nose. I go, no, it's if you can make it so you don't have to fight. That's the, you know, the zenith of a martial artist. That's the ideal martial artist, is you don't have to fight.
very true.
Yeah.
I remember, oh God, I remember I'd go to these parties when I was in high school, and these guys would get drunk. Your friends would get drunk, and they would go, "Hey, Mr. Karate Man, this is what you got," and you just and they keep on goading you till you got no place to go. It's to do something, and you do something, and they sober up real quick, and they get pissed off at you, like, "Oh, dude, you did this to me, so you gave me no out, so I had to do it." And I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? There's got to be a better way than this. So I thought about it, and I talked to my instructor about it, and then he gave me some options. And it's
Was that hard as far as being Asian here, being an Asian American uh, growing up?
yeah, it was. It's where I grew up in Maryland was I was like one of the few Asians around. So we would get death threats, death calls saying, go home where it came from. And that never made sense to me because I was born here. I was like, people would say that to me, go, "Well, I was born here." "Well, you don't look like us." Stuff like that. It's just, the definition of American is much different to them. So I was like, so then what happened was, yeah, I had some major identity issues before I started doing martial arts. And what happened was, my mom would, yeah, I would take out the trash and mow the lawn and do the dishes and just clean up the house and stuff like that every week. And she'd give me a certain amount of money so I could spend and do what I wanted to do every weekend. During that time was the Kung Fu boom in the 70s with Bruce Lee, Shaw Brothers, and Golden Harvest. And every weekend I would go because that was like my therapy. Because I'd watch these people that kind of looked like me. I was like, wow, I'm not that bad of a person after all. It kind of helped me mentally and emotionally and spiritually. And so I was like, wow, okay. And then I come home, I tell my mom the story. And of course they were dubbed. There were Chinese movies that were dubbed. So my mom would say, oh, that's this story. And it was these old ancient stories that she grew up. And that helped me connect with my mom better. And so what happened was I was no longer ashamed of my background because everybody made you feel inferior because of, the situation. I mean, unfortunately it's happening, it's still happening now. And so, with everything that's going on right now. So I don't mean to get political, but so I mean, it's just
Has it got better as far as being Asian American? And
I feel it's gotten better. But I mean, because Asian Americans are now speaking up, whereas before you kind of, because the during my time as a kid growing up, they were just kind of like, hey, just do your thing and mind your own business. That was kind of the mentality back then. But now, you know, Asian Americans have been here much longer. I'm not saying like I'm like a pioneer or anything. There were people before, but I was never around any groundbreakers. Our circle of Asians were mainly immigrants. So they just kind of like, mind your own business, keep going, and just don't bother just going. It's like, I can't. They corner here, they do these things, and there's nothing I can do.
so I know you competed in the martial arts circuit for a little bit. You were a national champion one time back in the 80s. Was that a big deal as far as notoriety, and people were like, "Oh, look at this Asian guy"? Or Because I know
Yeah,
your teacher was an Asian,
no, he wasn't.
Keith Vitale, right?
Yeah, he was one of my instructors. The main instructors, they were also Caucasian. They were in Maryland with Tompkins Karate Association. There were one was she had a master's degree in Harvard in anthropology. The other one is a science teacher. He taught chemistry in high school, and the other one is a computer science guy, and he was gifted in a bunch of things. He was invited to go to Carnegie Mellon to do music.
And they taught martial arts.
Yeah, and they all taught martial arts. So their philosophy, their approach to life came to me because of how they saw life. And I'm very grateful to all of them. So
Speaking of life, after your martial arts career, something changed. I think you went into other things other than martial arts. What was like the next step after that?
I tore my groin muscle in competition. So I went to the doctor. They said, "Well, we're gonna saw, part of your hip and put it together and this and that." And I'm like, No, no, no. So I figured it out, and I said, there's something else. So I ended up going to school. I became a psychology major, English literature, social science. Then I became an art major. I was like a semester away from graduating computer science, and the guy says, you got all your stuff. You got to take a bunch of electives that you totally avoided. So I said, all right, so anything that's not related to what you're doing. So I said, you can learn how to draw. I go, what? They teach you how to draw? Yes. So, okay. So I took that and I go, well, what does an art major have to do? And he started telling me all the other things. And I'm like going, yeah, why don't I do that too? And do this. And next thing you know, within 5 minutes, I became an art major because it really intrigued me.
That actually worked out in your favor because I think after college you were a game designer.
Yes. Yeah. What happened was it was a bunch of things. I was able to write scripts, because of my writing over at UCLA Extension, and be able to tell a joke. All these things, and being a martial artist, I was able to describe action. So that all came into one big head when I decided to get into game design, and that's how that all kind of happened.
Yeah, what's interesting too is martial arts played into that as well. John was in a video game.
Yeah. Art of Fighting 3, and a couple others. Yeah.
Yeah, he worked for a couple of the famous gaming companies
Yeah.
back in the day.
THQ, SNK.
Yeah.
Mattel.
Mattel, yeah.
And Disney. So
yeah, so John was in a video game. You can play as him.
yeah, you can play as me. Yeah. I forgot the name of the character, but I'm this
Art of Fighting
3.
3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to find it.
Yeah. There's a couple characters that I did mocaps where I did all the falls for all those characters. So I had to figure out different ways of falling.
So after that, I think you ventured into a different career after that. Was that, you explain.
Oh, I got burnt out. Video game design is kind of a, it's a, one done thing, I guess, to get described. There was no, so I was like, I gotta do something. So I saved up my money, and what I became doing is I became a writer. I became a writer for a martial arts magazine, and because of that, the reason was I got into another injury, where I wasn't allowed to do anything physical or anything like that until the suit settled. So that took a little while. So I was like, well, why don't I write about what I talk about?
Was that when you were writing for Kung Fu magazine?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You would review the movies.
I would review the movies, and then I would interview certain stars, and my two editors, Risk Castellato and Martha Burr, they were so open to anything that I came up with. I 9 times out of 10, if I came up with an idea, I go for it. So it's like, so I was the first guy in their magazine to interview Jackie Chan. And
Kung Fu Magazine?
yeah, yeah. I mean, Jackie was interviewed before, but what happened was nobody kind of knew his movies except what was out there at the time. This is around the time of Rumble in the Bronx and First Strike because people were just getting ready to know him. But I knew him before that. I knew his movies before that from 1976 till then because I go to the Chinese theaters and watch his movies on the weekends at midnight.
Yeah. Jackie Chan was in Enter the Dragon.
Yes, he was.
With Bruce Lee.
Yes, yes.
For a split second.
Yeah, he was a couple people in there.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, he was the guy that took the arm break from behind with a chicken wing. And then he was the guy that fell into the acid bath with a nunchuck. Yeah. And then he was also the last guy that took the staff and he fell right in front of camera. And I think what Jackie said that he actually did get hit.
Yeah. But Bruce apologized after that. So
yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I think there was another career that you ventured into after that.
Stunt coordinating. What?
No.
What?
Stand-up. Yes.
Okay.
You were a stand-up comedian for a while.
So here's what, let's backtrack. Let's backtrack. So what happened was I was an art major in college. I had, I'm very impatient with myself. So I was at a point where in art school, one project was your semester, and I couldn't handle it. It was just like 12 weeks. So on one project, really, I was used to doing things fast, and I was like, oh God, I can't do this. So I got to figure something else out. So I got transferred over to Parsons School of Design in New York, and I thought, this is my career. This is gonna be, once I graduate here, I'll be okay. It'll be fine. Then the first week there, I saw Billy Crystal record his live album at the Bottom Line, and he did 3 hours, close to 3 hours. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's very soulful, very art. You're able to express yourself. I don't have to listen to a client tell me what I should draw. I was like, wow, this is cool. I can say and do whatever I want and get paid for it. So that night I knew, I was like, I got to finish this semester out and come back home to Maryland and, figure this out.
What's interesting is when you were talking about your stand-up career, it was like a martial art to you.
Oh yeah.
All the training and structure and which is interesting because martial art plays into everything that we do, even stand-up comedy. So
well, if you think of any way of expressing yourself, if you want to express it to the masses, there should be a structure and also a discipline that you have to have within yourself, because if you don't have the discipline in yourself to follow it through, you're just going to leave it and do something else. You're just going to not do much of anything. So, I mean, I knew getting my black belt was really important for me because I knew it taught me determination and structure and everything you needed to know about how to be successful in life. Because I have to be honest, some people might not agree with me, but you're not really a martial artist until you take what you've learned in the dojo, the kun, or the mat, and apply it to your real life. If you can't do that, then you're just still a student, really, to be honest with you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to switch to the film industry.
Sure.
Because BENlabs does stuff in the industry as well.
Cool.
John actually wrote the book on film fighting. Literally, he wrote the book on film fighting. How many pages, John?
It's like 600 pages.
600 pages.
And they cut 300 of it out of it.
So I remember when you were writing the book, you were kind of disappointed in American filmmaking at the time as far as how they shot it, and it wasn't optimal for fight scenes. Maybe you can explain that part of it in the book.
Sure. At the time, I mean, I think things are starting to change, but the thing is generally what you do is what they did back then was you shot a wide master and they shot camera right and camera left. So if you do one fight scene and you shoot it 3 different ways, 70% of each shot is no good because there's a miss when you throw a punch, there's air and the guy reacts. It just doesn't look right. So they would do that. So, and they wouldn't just do it 3 times. They had to do it like 5 times from each angle. So that's at least 15 takes of the actors or the stunt performers doing the same move over and over again. By at least the 6th or 7th take, it's going to start falling apart. It's not going to look as good as the first 2 or 3. And by the time you get to 15, it's going to look really bad. So in Hong Kong, what they do is, since their movies are done so fast and so quick, like Wu Ping told me he shot a movie in 3 days. We shot Hard as Nails in 7.
That was pretty crazy. I was on John Kreng's stunt team for a while, so that's how I met John Kreng. I was an actor for a while, and I did stunts as a hobby, and that's how I met John.
He was an awesome stunt guy. Awesome.
Thank you.
So yeah, so what happens is what the Hong Kong guys would do is they would just, out of economics, and also a lot of them studied Sergei Eisenstein, Battleship Potemkin, the steps, the one. If you watch that, how it's cut for pace and timing, that's essentially what they kind of did. They took that and a bunch and some of Buster Keaton's stuff and Chaplin's and Harold Lloyd's stuff.
Well, what's interesting about what you told me, because I remember there were a lot of hours that we spent discussing why a fight scene was so good, and we would really break it down. It's not just I love the scene; it's what makes it good and what makes it bad, and and so I remember you talked about. Oh man, I think I forgot what I was going to say.
We're talking about why it's important, why you like a certain fight scene.
Yeah. Oh, so you were saying that a good fight scene also has a story to it.
Oh yes, yeah.
And at the time when we were watching a lot of the American fight scenes, it was just like random chess moves.
Right.
So, and I think that was that like the big reason why you wrote the book, and to try to teach people? I know that was a big thing to you at the time.
Yeah, I did it because I needed to express what I learned through, working with some of the Hong Kong filmmakers and the talent at the time, because they were, they wanted, the situation I would get was, I want what those Hong Kong guys are doing. And I go, okay. So I piece it together and I explained to them what needs to happen. And when came time to shoot, it went out the door. And I was like, this is very frustrating, because they said they want this, but they end up using a different process. So I tell them, you got to put the camera here, you got to do this, and you edit and you cut here. He goes, no, I don't want to edit it. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to put the camera low. I don't want to do this, and this. It's like, well, I'm telling you what needs to happen in order for you to make it look like what you showed me before we started shooting this. And they're stuck in their process. That's what I learned, and it happened time and time and again. So that was the issue that I came up with. So I said and then when I was offered the opportunity to write the book, I said, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, 3 years it took me to write this book. So
I remember those days.
oh yeah, sitting at Starbucks.
I was studying for my real estate exam, and John, are you at Starbucks?
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit next to you while I study for my exam.
Yeah, just kind of feeling of community.
Yeah, we were there for 2 hours, not talking to each other, and then I'd be done studying. See you, John.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. When do you think it started to change?
Well, the Matrix had a lot to do with it.
Wu Ping.
Yeah,
It goes back to Wu
Yeah,
Ping.
we're back to Wu Ping. That's how I first met him. So what happened was he said, I'll do it if you let me, control the camera. And the Wachowskis were very smart to say yes. Because if you watch what happened before that, you watch a Jackie Chan movie that was shot in America, and you just go, ugh, something's missing when you can. It's missing the energy. It's missing timing and all this stuff. And why'd they get so close on his elbow for no reason? It's just stuff like that. So it started opening, Westerners' eyes on not shooting what was considered traditional at the time. So that's kind of how that started. It wasn't. It required more people to come here and kind of open people's eyes. So it that was revolutionary. There's this saying that I tell a couple of people. Look, I'm a Trekkie, so I'm taking this term. Only Wu Ping can come to America. Is this takeoff on what Spock said? Only Nixon could go to China. So there you go.
I'm too young to know that. I'm 21, so I don't.
That's right. That's right. Well,
Yeah.
you can watch it on Blu-ray.
Okay. um, you've met a few celebrities, and I think you have a story on how you got your SAG card. Is that right?
Oh God. Okay. James Liu's a friend of mine.
James Liu is a big stunt person.
Yeah.
In the industry.
Yes, and he won an Emmy for Luke Cage.
Luke Cage, yeah. You probably don't know his name, but you've seen him a
Yeah, when you
million
see
times.
him, you go, "Oh yeah, he got killed by all these major."
Yeah.
He's been around forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, since Kung Fu the TV series, he's still working these days.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, and I got my side card through him, shooting a commercial for Hewlett Packard. So is it a picture up? No, it's not. We had to shoot the same fight scene over and over again because what happened was Hewlett Packard at the time was selling uniforms and clothing.
John, you got to get to the point of what you were wearing.
Yes. So we had to wear different things. We had to wear he essentially we're running out of uniforms. Our uniforms are getting all tattered. So James would walk up and say, "Sensei, we need more uniforms." And the sensei, his master was Gerald Locamora. So
Gerald.
yeah, awesome. So,
Yeah. Another martial artist. Yeah.
Yeah, legendary. Yeah. So what happened was
this is in the Hewlett Packard commercial,
yes.
right? Yeah.
So he called the lady on the phone. The lady's like too busy. Yeah. And she'd always deliver the wrong uniforms. So I had to do the same fight scene over and over and over and over again, like 10 different times. Referee uniforms, Santa Claus, a bunch of things. So one of them was a tutu. We all had the dress and the pink and the tutu.
So picture a Hewlett Packard commercial. A bunch of Asian guys, instead of a martial arts uniform, they were in pink tutus.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was fun.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
You also met Jet Li.
Yeah.
Explain how you met him.
I was still working as a stand-up comedian, and I met this chiropractor, Dr. Bloomquist, who put my leg back together. So it was like a year and a half of physical therapy, and God bless him, man. He says, "I can put your leg back together without surgery." I'm like, "Oh yeah, right." He goes, "Look, if you can't, then you don't owe me anything." I was like, "Well, sure, why not?" So I was in intense physical therapy for a year because my leg was gone. So finally, he said to me, he goes, "You can start by after a year, a little over a year and a half." He goes, "You can start training now." I was like, "Really?" Okay, so I did, and then within 3 months, what happened was, as a stand-up comedian, I met some executives over at Golden Harvest, which make with the studio that made Bruce Lee's and Jackie's movies. So I was like, I'm a huge fan of your films. Work. I loved your guys' stuff, and maybe we could do something because I'm a martial artist and a stand-up comedian. So I sent them my press kit, and they said, yeah, let's do something. So they offered me a couple positions, and one was 3 months in North Carolina on this obscure movie you might not heard of called Ninja Turtles. and, and I said, and they go, what are the others? And they go, well, we got this other movie we're doing with Jet Li. I'm like, oh, Jet Li? I was like,
6-time world champion
yeah.
back when he was like 16 years old or something
Yeah,
like
when
that.
he
Yeah.
was 9 to
Nine.
16, something like that. Yeah, it was just amazing. So I said, I want to do it with him. And I said, look, yeah, I'll do it if you promise me you guys teach me how you guys do your fight scenes. And they're kind of like going, why? Why do you want to do, because I mean, the Ninja Turtles was the high profile, better paying. And I was like, no, it's about learning. It's about learning how you guys do this stuff. So that was always my thing, learning about how they learned how to choreograph and shot and edited these fights. So, and I took it and I ended up fighting him for 2 days.
He hit you.
Oh yeah.
You were bruised.
Oh, I couldn't walk for a week. I mean, I got leg whipped. I got punched and kicked. Yeah, we had to do hard falls on the concrete. So
No pads or anything at the end those days.
there wasn't a gator back then. No such thing as
Oh.
gators. Yeah, so you had to learn how to do the. First time I did it, I saw stars, and I couldn't breathe. I was like going, okay, I didn't do it right. I know I didn't do it right because I can't do this because the guy that taught me said
Yeah.
you gotta rotate and land on your heel, and I was like, okay. And I was like, I did not land on my heel. so I was like, I got to get it right next time. So I had to. So things like that make you learn quick. So I ended up fighting him for 2 days, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life because I learned how fights were done. I learned how they were doing it.
Yeah, and actually, because of all these experiences, you have your own production company now.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's for the almost 25 years of stunt coordinating and second unit directing that we decided, Melissa, Tracy, and we decided to form our own production companies. And I have Real Kinetic Media, which is what we want to do is we have these cinema style cinema cameras, and we're shooting action cinematically. When I say that, like I was given the privilege of following this lacrosse team for a whole season, and I had to figure out, okay, I'm gonna shoot this cinematically. I'm not gonna shoot it just like a video, like you're watching on TV or anything. Like I gotta tell a story with this. I gotta go low and do certain things so these guys look like something out of NFL films. So that's my whole goal and my learning with this. So that's what we did. They went far. They ended up going to the semifinals.
Wow.
Yeah, they're very underrated at the time. They weren't taken seriously, and these kids they really.
Well, we actually have a clip.
You do?
Of some of your stuff.
Oh, great.
Yeah, let's see if we can play that.
Okay.
Yeah. Hit it, Matt. I think we won't have sound locally, but for our online viewers, we'll have sound. So you can narrate some stuff.
Oh, yeah. So this is a new logo. Oh, this is the stunt. This is stunt reel. So we're working on the website right now. It should be up in a couple weeks. So this is something I did for the late Roger Corman. This is such a great fall, Edwin Villa. And then this is the commercial I was stunt coordinated for the LA Times, where we profiled Yun Chung Yen, where he choreographed the fight scenes, showed how to do the wires, and I made sure everybody was safe and we got everything done on time. So that was a great learning experience, working with a legend like that, being in charge of the stunt team and making sure that everything was safe. That was amazing. That was such an honor. So, and this was shown in AMC theaters for like 4 years.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
That's cool. And he's actually Wu Ping's brother.
Yes, his younger brother. He's
brother.
known as a one-take stuntman. He's always been able to do stuff like that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then this is the lacrosse team of the action that we shot for them.
This is a high school, is that right?
Yes. And so I was focusing on getting the emotion and shooting it at 120 frames a second. So when I go in the post, I can kind of tweak things a little bit. So, I mean, it's, I grew up loving NFL films because I had a
Yeah.
hard time speaking English,
Yeah.
learning English. And it's like, because you saw these guys looked like they were flying when I was a kid watching football. I was like, well, I'd like to get that experience, that kind of elation that you can't see with the naked eye, you with at 120 frames a second.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did with this. So, and
It looks epic.
yeah, that's what I tried to do with this. And what happened was you know, the coach would come to me and he told me, he goes, look, you've grown a lot since last year and this and that. And he said that, goes, your videos are helping the morale of the kids, the team. So I felt good. And then, when I posted on Instagram, within like 2 days, I get like over 1,000 views because the kids would, Mom, Dad, look at me. Don't I look a badass? That's what happened. So
That's
that's my
awesome.
service of doing what I do and learning what I learned in film industry and putting it out there for the community and the public.
Yeah. So we're going to transition a little bit. Uh, we want to leave time for Q&A at the end. So for any of you guys here or online, you submit a question. But before we do a Q&A, we want to do some kind of live demonstration.
Yes.
Because it's a martial art, right?
Yep.
John can't do stuff at the moment, so I will demonstrate since I've been training for quite a long time. But do we have a volunteer to hold a board?
I'll do it. Yeah.
You want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move the stuff aside.
Yeah.
Oh, you want Justin will come in.
I'll do. Look, Joe, I'll do the sidekick.
Okay. Let's move all the stuff aside. John, you can stay back here. Okay, so what we're going to do is a basic. So what you're going to do is hold it from both ends. Hold it down this way, and you can step back a little bit to give you a brace, but do it lower. Hold it lower. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a basic hammer fist, just this way, right? So in the martial art, of course, you prep yourself. In actually, let's get it from this angle. film related, yeah. You can stand there, John. Yeah, there you go. oh, let go. Just to let you guys know, a knock on it. It's actual wood. So when you train in the martial art, you actually are trained to just hit it, it's all about. Yeah, actually in my school, if you don't break it, you don't pass. Yeah. So. Yeah. Okay, ready? Yeah, stay here. Let's. Not ready. Oh, yes. Let's do another one. Let's exactly the same thing, but this time I'm going to hold an egg. And the object is to not break the egg, but break the board. Let's see. And not, yeah. Yes, thank you, thank you. That didn't work out as I planned. You're good? Let's do one more. I think we have time. John. Yeah. We're discussing the technique. Yeah, let's do a quick sidekick. For this one, Justin, I'll have John hold it. Thanks, Justin. I'll be sure not to step on the egg. Sidekick. So this is just a basic sidekick where hit someone's chest. I've never done it with shoes on, so this is a little weird for me. All right, let's open it up to Q&A. Let's grab our chairs back. Oh, yeah, sorry about that, John.
Hello. Is it on? So you've worked with many actors and actresses. Do you have a few that you can share who are so passionate and dedicated to learning for the role that you respected that passion and discipline? Any that were super enthusiastic that you worked with?
Yeah, you know, there's one guy you probably never expect, but he had a different discipline. His name was Rob Van Winkle, also known as Vanilla Ice. Vanilla Ice. Yeah, we put together a fight scene for this movie that didn't really go anywhere, but I saw his videos. This guy can move. He has a discipline and the understanding and the body mechanics to do certain things. So what I did was we came up with some outrageous moves, and I said, Rob, I don't know if you can do this, da da da, but this is what we put together. And we ran through the whole fight, and we did some crazy ass stuff. And I go, look, anything you want toned down, let me know. He just looked at it and goes, dude, I got it. And he did it in one take. So, you know, and I couldn't believe when he did it. We just sat there and it was like, whoa. And I mean, he would do stuff like we tried to add some Jackie Chan type stuff to the fight. And he was like, he tried to dodge, he fell, you know, like in a push-up position, and somebody's about to kick him in the face out on the ground, right? So what he would do is he made him push off, and as he did, he had to lay flat so the kick would go over his head, over his body. So it was not just him doing the move, it was his timing with that actor to throw the kick. So he was able to do it. He goes, no problem, man, did it. So that's no, he wasn't under pressure. I mean, maybe he felt You know, he vibed off to the guy really well. So yeah.
All right, and then we have another question.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being here. I'm
Oh.
very impressed with your life's journey.
Oh, thanks.
One of my question for you is, did you feel any hesitation going through the different disciplines? But in your career, I see you've done a lot. It all goes back to martial arts, but you've done stand-up comedy and writing and direct and stunt coordinating. Like, did you feel any hesitation going in between those disciplines? Like, I should just stick with what I know, or were you just like, I'm going for it?
Okay. I was talking to Joe about this. To answer your question, hesitation personally or personally, I know because it was this tuning fork in my center that just went ding, and you know this is it. Yeah, and you just write it until it's done. So I was telling Joe about this. All art has the same structure and discipline. It's just you choose a different medium for it. And that's my philosophy. A lot of everybody goes, "Oh, you do all these different things." I go, "No, it's not different. It's the same thing. It's just a different way of expressing it." That's the way I see it. A lot of people don't see it that way, but I see it that way. That's how I'm able to kind of move and adapt quickly into different disciplines. I see it as a different discipline. Of course, the groundwork's going to be different. Like the technology is going to be different. The terrain's going to be different. The wording is going to be different, but the approach, the understanding, the way you got to immerse yourself into these worlds is the same. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Also online, if we have any questions online.
Mine is playing off Crystal as a follow-up, is about the confidence. You reference the confidence you have from martial arts because of the discipline and the tenacity. It's actually a question for both of you because Joe, Eric, I had no idea about also your transitions into different career paths or exploring. I learned today about the stunt man. I learned about the real estate. So for both of you, do you feel it was that confidence that you had learned and experienced from martial arts that gave you the confidence to make those changes too, career changes?
Yeah, so the martial art to me is what it gave me is the self-discipline and the training. So that when I say it is incorporating your life, that's what we do in life. Oh, I can't believe that you eat the same thing every day, or I wear the same thing every day. Well, it's just you put the structure into your lifestyle, and just stick to it. And that's really how you become successful in things is the long game into that self-discipline. So yeah.
So what was the question?
Was about, I guess, just about the confidence. I mean, you believed in yourself. A lot of us, myself included, to make a career change is, is intimidating.
It is intimidating.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, you think outside of yourself about it. Yes, it gets intimidating. When you think outside and you look at it objectively, yes, it is very intimidating. I don't do that. When I do that, I understand. I go, no, I got to jump back in myself and understand the reason why I'm doing this. It's the purpose. It's for me, the confidence comes beyond me. It's the purpose. I know that I have a purpose. I'm going to get this by doing this. And when I get there, it's going to be cool. Sometimes I don't get there, but that's okay. It's the journey that is most important. Because even though that journey to that specific job or whatever it is, you might not come to you. You learn stuff along the way that you take with you that you could use in other situations. And that's really important, I feel. It might not look good on a resume, but you walk around with it. That's resume is just a piece of paper. It just kind of is not even a skeleton of who you are. There's more to it than that.
It's that whole be water,
Yes, very much.
Water.
Very much be water, and knowing that you will get there. Even though you don't get there, it's okay. It's the journey.
Do we have time for another question, or you have an online question?
Fictional character. Oh, hi, hello. Derek Bloom asked, "Who is your favorite fictional character?"
Oh my gosh. Fictional character. There's too many, to be honest. There's too many. At this moment, oh geez. Well, Peter Parker. You know, I always uh, identified with him as a kid. I grew up, saw the '67 TV series. He was always this wise ass kid who would always say stupid stuff to the villain before he's about to get his ass kicked. And I was like going, hey, that's pretty cool. But you know, he was. I felt that out of all the characters that were created, that he tried to balance life and and being a superhero. What it meant to be a superhero is just something I feel is pretty cool. I love that concept of what he says.
I assume that's it. So we ran out of time. Sorry about that. Last thing is, how can people get a hold of you?
Find me on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram and at John Kreng, JohnKreng, or my company is real REELKINETIC. That's my company on Instagram. You can find me on there or LinkedIn.
Cool. Thanks, John. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming, everyone. Thank you.
So I want to thank this guy for even thinking of me. This guy, I've known him for so long, and when he said, "You're the first guy I thought," I was like, "What, really?" Okay, but you know, Joe, you've been in my life. You've seen my different incantations, and you've always been there, and I appreciate you. I really, really do. And you never questioned it. You went, yeah. I go, hey Joe, this is what I'm doing. Cool. Can I come along? Yes. Come on, let's go. So that's what I always loved about you, man. Yeah. Yeah. And Joe, if you watch my reel, Joe is in that a lot. There's this my demo reel, my stunt reel, especially at the end. You'll see him fight Ultimo Dragon, the pro wrestler. He was so convincing of a stuntman. He showed so much pain that the DP and the director went. They would do these knee jerk reactions, even though he did it like 15 times in a row each time. So that's how good of a performer this guy is. Yeah. Oh, yeah, thanks.